We are live. And we're going to give one, excuse me, we're going to give 1 minute of lead time here. And we're going to be right back to cover the current geomagnetic storm conditions caused by a coronal mass ejection. So be right back in 1 minute. In the meantime, enjoy the Aurora forecast on the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. All right, so we're looking at the last 6 hours or so here. Solar activity in 193 angstroms. We have entered into geomagnetic storm conditions as we are now at a KP of 6. So we're going to do things a little bit out of order today. And I didn't mean to hit that. All right, let's show you what we're talking about here. That is a coronal mass ejection, folks. And there's another one expected to hit on the 16th, according to the forecasts. Let's get into the regular space weather report here, as we do most days. And we're going to be back to spaceweathernews.com in a moment. I don't know what happened with the music there. It's a mystery. And we got a sound field playing, folks. A sound field. All right, let's look at some more solar data here. Let's look at the 304 angstroms view, complete with magnetic lines. There we go. You see a whole bunch of open field lines here. Let's look at a different view. This isn't particularly clear. We'll look at 94 angstroms as we did yesterday. There's a 94 angstroms view, and you can see a bunch of open field lines there in between the sunspots and the North Pole. Otherwise, low levels of solar activity. Next, let's talk cycling. If you're a doomsday prepper and you don't have a bike, well, why not? Head to theveloshop.net and get yourself one, unless you've already got a bike. Thanks for joining us, smAsho staff and other 3 viewers. Anyway, put a bike in your prepping collection if you don't already have one, and head to theveloshop.net to figure out what to do. Maybe buy a bike from them. Thanks, donors. As I return to the sport of bike racing. Also, please follow us on Instagram. We're approaching 2,000 posts, and we do pro driving tips on a regular basis. And there's something going on with the music today. I don't know what the deal is, folks. My keyboard shortcuts aren't working.
All right, it's another pro driving tip from me, your pro driver, El smAsho del Masho Tank. Enjoy the view from the rainy sunroof. We're talking about driving for conditions today. In other words, don't drive through running water and slow down a little bit on the highways. as your propensity to hydroplane goes up exponentially with the amount of water on the road. So during a downpour, slow down, maybe 5 miles an hour, maybe 10 miles an hour, and watch the cruise control, because cruise control can cause you to lose control. When you're manually operating the gas pedal, you have much more ability to feel tire slippage. So use that to your advantage. Get rid of the cruise control in a downpour. And that's your pro driving tip for the day.
So yeah, that's a thing. Check us out on Instagram. It's a little more personal, a little bit less space weather stuff. Also, again, thanks donors. We are in the process of growing the channel, so YouTube is not paying us a dime. We are making a zero revenue. So we apologize for the ads, folks, but we're looking at the possibility of maybe creating revenue someday via YouTube. But until then, this channel is sustained by our donors. So check us out on Patreon also. We will be putting up exclusive content there eventually. We've also started the arduous process of starting a nonprofit organization. And the mission is to study, report, and assist the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space weather and Earth effects, as Earth's weather comes from space. To connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach, to demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, 3 of which are already in the works, to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon in order to optimize value and reduce risk and liability and save lives and resources and adapt no matter what the adversity is. And last but not least, to not be ossified in our beliefs and to treat those who are with love, respect, and inclusion to the scientific discussion. Please share our videos with your friends on social media and help us to study wildlife, such as the vulture. Look at the real-time solar wind, as we have just gotten hit by protons, folks. Check it out. Solar wind density, 29.40 protons per cubic centimeter. As the phi angle shifts all around, we see a negative BZ and a very high BT. So we have a powerful field, and we have it south pole oriented here. That's an earthquake risk, folks, especially when this activity drops back down. So this is from a coronal mass ejection about 3 days ago. Not exactly sure which one. Not really going to look it up too much. Not going to overanalyze. But check it out. Nearly 30 protons per cubic centimeter, and an increase in the speed also to 525. And that has brought us up to a KP of 6, folks. Just want to make sure this is refreshed here. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is at either 76 or 75. And I just want to note that that is well above predicted values. And for that, we thank you. So check out spaceweather.com. Multiple CMEs are coming. And we've been covering this as these things happen long before anybody else. It's no comparison. We did see another B-class flare late in the day yesterday. And we see some anomalies on the Discover. Some transient events showed up here, not reflected on the ACE. Now, we see magnetometer spikes, and that is associated with solar plasma. So welcome to the protons. We've got a plethora of protons, and the magnetosphere movies will reflect that. Here we see a characteristic electron flux dip. And we are on proton light, as we're not showing a major increase in the proton flux here, but the dip in the electron flux is proportionally similar. We see a little bit of surface charging hazards here around the South Atlantic. And the F2 layer is actually looking quite normal. A little bit on the charged side here. Pretty normal. That nothing really to really comment on there. And again, the KP is at 6. So welcome to the geomagnetic storm conditions. Check out the Aurora forecasts as we showed in the intro. If you are at McMurdo or in places like northern Michigan, North Dakota, and southern Canada, go out and look up. If you're in central Canada, certainly go out and look up. I mean, that red zone, you got about a 100% chance of seeing auroras there, and major auroras in Antarctica. So go out and look up if you're seeing auroras. Take a photo, leave us a comment. We do see an increase in the relativistic electron flux also. We're not going to really cover that too much, other than we've got very high electron flux levels. So we've got relativistic electrons, we've got a geomagnetic storm, a lot of stuff going on. Let's go back to the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard to see the hit. And right there, there's the arrival of that 30 protons per cubic centimeter coronal mass ejection. It's just started, and we are covering it long before anybody else. Don't even get me started on how ahead of the curve. We're so ahead of the curve that folks have no idea what we're talking about half the time because they weren't prepared. Let's look at the LASCO C3 to see if we see any more halos. Nothing of note there particularly. Actually, there is a bit of a halo right there at the beginning. So another coronal mass ejection on the 13th. Earth facing. This one here is a little earth facing too. So we had 2 CMEs on the 13th. Remember, folks, X-ray flares are not required to produce a coronal mass ejection. The sun can spit out plasma without producing an X-ray flare. So don't be confused about it. Here's the X-ray imager. There was a B-class flare yesterday. And you'll see it right about here. I think that's the flare right there, folks. Nothing too noteworthy. It was only in the B range. Let's move on. We're going to ignore the Enlil spiral and stuff like that because it's subject to change. So we should see some fluctuations in the electron content here. We use this to look for GPS errors and so on. Thank you for joining us, Nona 314. So there is your total electron content forecast. We are expecting fairly nominal levels here in the F2 ionosphere layer and the F layer if it's nighttime. So not a lot of GPS errors even on the equator as we've been seeing recently. Let's look at the Gong 2 to check out the magnetic environment before we get to some more stuff. So there's the Gong 2 information. I don't think that's the newest. Let's see. All right, I think it is the newest. Let's see. There we go. And this is the view from as if you were looking at the sun from the North Pole. And this data is compiled from a bunch of magnetometers, not only on stereo A and B, but also a lot of ground-based magnetometers on planet Earth. Anyway, there's the environment. Nothing too exciting to talk about other than the fact that this polarity boundary crossing may happen earlier than expected due to sunspot activity. And the data is 1 hour and 45 minutes old. Next, we'll look at solar ham to look at the breakdowns of the sunspots. There we've got 2741, the most recent sunspot. And it's continuing to degrade there. It is only an alpha class. There's only one polarity field umbra. Here's sunspot 2740, which is degrading down to be unnamed entirely. Interesting straight line here on the magnetogram. Not sure if that's an anomaly, and I don't care. Let's refresh this so you can see where you're located. Thanks for tuning in, Milky Way Galaxy team, for the win. Anyway, there's the situation 2 weeks into May. Let's advance it 3 weeks into May. I don't know how many times I got to press it, but I'm going to keep pressing it. There we go. There's 3 weeks into May. We see nearly a full moon at that point as Earth creeps up on the gas giants and Mercury blows past Venus. Let's go out to stereo A at the Coronagraph Space Weather Beacon. One of the best places to look for coronal mass ejections, folks. I believe there are links in the description to this, so please check it out yourself. We did see a coronal mass ejection again yesterday, noted right here. Okay, let's try again. Right about there, and that is quite southward facing, quite far off of the interplanetary magnetic field. Anyway, there's the most recent coronal mass ejection, folks, and it is not Earth facing. Move on to the star chart. As I ask you, where were you when Cygnus rose? And we are a day behind here. We're a day short and a day late and $1 short. As this channel punches up and refuses to pay Google 1 cent. Anyway, we got the moon has just risen here. Actually, the moon's about to set, rather. And we see Jupiter and Saturn out there on the ecliptic. If you're up before dawn and you've got clear enough skies, check it out. The largest planets in our solar system are visible. Now, let's look at the magnetosphere movies, the moment you've been waiting for, as we have a massive fluctuation here in the magnetosphere. So check it out. First, the velocity. And keep in mind, a dense solar wind affects the velocity of the magnetohydrodynamics. Because remember, the solar wind is primarily made of protons, hydrogen nuclei with no electrons. And when they get to the Van Allen belts, they really want electrons. So let's look at the density, which should be the highest we've seen in quite a long time. Again, almost at 30 protons per cubic centimeter. And the density is really off the scale here, as it only goes up to 4 protons per cubic centimeter. And we see major undulations in the magnetosphere as a result of the incoming coronal mass ejection. Let's look at pressure. You may be surprised at how it looks. Nothing to freak out about. We do see very high pressure on the ionosphere on the nighttime side. A little lower pressure on the daytime side. And for that, we thank our magnetosphere. Check it out. Let's let that play through one more time here, as we don't always see so much activity here on the magnetosphere movies. By the way, thanks University of Michigan for your geospace model. For you new viewers out there, if you're interested in how this works, how the models are created, just head to the links in the description here, scroll down, click on details, and read up on the space weather modeling framework. Yes, the SWMF. that is how it's done. Let's move on to the ground perturbations, as they're probably going to be significant. And for all you pole flip, pole excursion enthusiasts, this should be an interesting day. So we're going to ignore the North America. We're going to look at the poles. As we look down the Earth's Z field, and these are going to look like Birkeland currents, folks. Birkeland currents. If you're not familiar with Birkeland currents, please read up. Please read up on Birkeland currents. Named for Christian Birkeland, probably the world's first plasma physicist. Birkeland. Look it up if you're not familiar. As the universe runs on Birkeland currents. Here's the magnetic perturbations over the globe. And we see major perturbations here, accompanied by auroras, magnetic fields emanating well into the Pacific and Indian Ocean, as well as connecting the North and South poles. So we've got some serious field force lines here, folks. KP6, and that's what it's going to look like as far as magnetic perturbations. We're going to let this play through a second time as a data archiving service. You cannot access this data in archive form, and we're hoping University of Michigan changes that soon. Now let's move on to more stuff, such as the cosmic rays. And let's look at all of them. We don't do it every day, but today we're going to. So here's Apatity. Here's Barentsburg. If we're going too fast, just pause the video, folks. We'll be here when you unpause. Here's Athens. We see anomalous data between the 9th and 11th. Probably more like a lack of data. Here's Mexico City. And it's not loading. We got errors on the page, folks. Let's go to Moscow. So a recent downtick in the past 2 weeks there at Moscow. And I don't know how many times I got to click the same thing, but it happens on the regs. I click it, nothing happens. I click it again. I hope something happens. Here's Oulu, Finland. Here's DOMC Antarctica. And here's DOMB Antarctica. And we're going to call an audible here. And we're going to bring up a 171 angstrom view of the sun. And that's 7 hours worth, folks. 7 hours. So there's your sunspots. And I will be back in 1 minute. All right, I apologize for the delay. We'll get back to the report right now. Check out zooniverse.org. Help us classify galaxies, as we need humans to do it. We're going to call this smooth. We're going to say cigar-shaped. We're going to say not merging or disturbed. We don't see any rare features. There you go. A galaxy's been classified. Head to zooniverse.org if you want to be the citizen scientist to classify this one. We only need about 6 million more classified, so check it out. Also, check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/smAshomash. If you're wondering if Facebook will censor you, the answer is yes. If you do stuff Facebook does not politically agree with, you will be censored, banned, deplatformed, etc. It has to do with their algorithms, and we're not a fan. Also, check us out on Twitter, another leftist organization. And by the way, I don't tweet, but we do put the videos up there to allow you to share with your Twitter folk. Also, check us out on minds.com/smAshomash. As we put our stuff up there also, the social media that will not censor, shadow ban, throttle, or anything like that. And if you're wondering, we've got 446,000 views there. So check us out, minds.com/smAshomash, the social media that will not censor you. If you like the music, check us out on SoundCloud also, links in the description, as well as SoundClick. In fact, let's break out a song that doesn't seem to be playing on Winamp as I shut down Winamp before your very eyes. Here's Gem Cutter, track available for 99 cents at soundclick.com. I'm gonna shut that down. I just wanted to demonstrate the SoundClick site. Anyway, original music available there. Let's look at 24 hours of earthquakes. Gonna do a quick rundown. We see a 5.2 in Peru. We see a 4.7 in Tonga. We see a 4.6 in Japan. We see a 4.6 in the Philippines at depth. 4.7 at the Fiji Islands at over 500 kilometers depth, portending a larger quake at the surface. 5.2 at Tonga also, so a small swarm there. 5.0 in Peru, 83 kilometers. Here's one, 1,200 kilometers, 1,200 meters above sea level in Markleeville, California. That's an interesting one. Let's look at the location of that, as it is probably volcanic in nature at 1,200 meters above sea level. There's the location of that quake, up on a mountain. We don't usually report on 2.5s, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And I totally lost my place now. All right, we see a 5.3 at Papua New Guinea. See if there was any tsunami generated from that. I doubt it. Looks pretty close to the shoreline. No warnings, advisory, watches, or threats. And for that, we thank you. We also see a 4.5 at Greece, a 4.5 at Fiji, the antipode of Greece, at 418 kilometers depth, 4.9 at Indonesia, 4.9 at Greece. So kind of a ping pong situation going on there as quakes bounce back and forth between antipodes. Greece, the opposite side of the world from Fiji. Here's a 4.4 in Russia. Here's a 4.5 in Greece again. 4.9 at the West Antarctic Ridge, very far south, due south of Australia. 5.0 in Mayotte. African Rift Zone quake breaking out. 4.3 in Indonesia. No other quakes of note. Move on to pressure maps, as anomalous low pressure systems are indications of where quakes may happen. So we were seeing deep quakes at Tonga. Let's check the pressure situation there. We're going to let this play on windy.com. And we see a persistent low. Here's a low move in the wrong direction. Heads up Papua New Guinea and Northern Australia. Very anomalous setup there, folks. Let's bring this back. Let that play again. Here's a persistent low south of Japan. Another persistent low here south of the Aleutian Islands, east of Kamchatka. If you're not familiar with earthquake forecasting, folks, head to quakewatch.net. As Ben Davidson's got some state-of-the-art techniques here. Look at volcanoes. Volcano rundown. Karimsky, not identifiable. Abiko, not identifiable. Sakurajima, a pretty scary volcano there on Kyushu, producing a 9,000-foot plume. Mount Ibu with a 7,000-foot plume. Dakono, same deal, 7,000-foot plume there. Revenador with a 15,000-foot plume. And Sabancaya in Peru, explosive activity continues. Do not try to fly your homemade helicopter over the 24,000-foot ash plume. Here's the U.S. Doppler radar. Give you the most updated stuff. And I would note that there is snow falling in New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Apparently, the planet is so hot that it's cold. Oh my gosh, global warming. Oh my gosh, look how hot it is up there. It's snowing in New England. And even in central upstate New York. Oh my gosh, the planet's burning up. Let's head to lightning maps and look at this insane convergence line here in the Atlantic Ocean. Check it out. If you are on a boat with George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg right now, batten down the hatches, as the last thing you want to see is sexy hunks like Mark Wahlberg and George Clooney killed by lightning strikes. Water vapor map over the U.S. Man, oh man, look at the convergence line over western Mexico there. Pretty crazy. We're going to ignore it. If you want to look up this stuff yourself, do a search for NASA GOES interactive weather satellites. You see a long convergence line here. Let me speed that up. So here's the upper level atmosphere stuff. Long convergence line. Going all the way from Newfoundland down to Oklahoma. And we got a little split convergence line here. We got a bunch of evaporation coming out of the South Atlantic off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina, putting a lot of water vapor in the atmosphere there, creating those lightning storms. And actually, this convergence line really does go all the way from off the frame to Newfoundland. So that's quite a convergence line there, folks. I want to zoom in on this spot down here, just south of Baja, Mexico, to show you atmospheric Hall currents, as we do so often on our channel. Thank you for the words of encouragement, Nona 314. We will get on our bikes and ride. Not only that, we will go so fast, it might make your head spin. And I'm going to zoom in on my location for once here, folks, as I'm interested in what's going on above my head. I do have a bike ride planned for the day. And we have this low pressure system here right around Eastern Lake Ontario, and it is screwing with our weather big time. We would love to see it dry out here in Eastern Pennsylvania, as it is flooding all over the place. And on that note, let's move on. So the flooding not too bad right now, according to this map, but we just avoided it, basically. Main flooding in the U.S. there occurring in the Mississippi Valley still. And what do we have here in Wyoming? Not sure what that is. Let's zoom in and figure it out. Hydrologic Outlook. I don't know what that means. Hydrologic output. I mean outlook. Yeah. Hydrologic outlook. Okay. I guess that means flooding. Temperatures at the 9,000 foot elevation will be in the upper 50s to lower 60s. Okay. Record snow in the northern hemisphere, creating flooding across the whole country, delaying planting and causing massive crop losses. As your prices increase, I say to you, Milky Way Galaxy team, for the win. If you're here from a different galaxy viewing our videos, please leave a comment. We are interested in all galaxies, including Cygnus A, M87, M31, otherwise known as the Andromeda Galaxy. So again, please leave a comment, especially if you're from a different galaxy. Global warming update. The Arctic is still frozen. I would note that this scale is in meters and was expanded last year to include 5 meters of ice. Here's what's been going on in the past month or so. As you can see, the Arctic is far from melting. Don't say we never gave you nothing. Check out space.com's article about pirates off of Somalia who made the ocean vortex inaccessible. So scientists studied it from space. That's right, there's a giant whirlpool that forms off the coast of Somalia. We'll put links in the article after the live stream. It's a little interesting. Rossby waves. I'm not sure. Hey, be quiet. I'm not sure if it's more interesting than the next article, which is going to be about cacao. Yes, we did put in yesterday's video information about our morning traditional Andean style cacao beverage. How about the 13 spiritual benefits of chocolate? 1, it's a heart opener. Actually, let's count down. 12, shamanic journeying. It's a mild drug. Connection with higher self. Effective meditation. Get any learnings in your entire being, not just your head. I don't know what that means, but we'll leave links to this article also. A journey to oneness, love, enlightenment. Male-female energy balance within. It does increase your blood oxygen, by the way, folks. And it's good for things like cell life and cell death. Enhance creativity, improve yoga, qigong, and similar practices. Here's some folks at an actual cacao tree. Check it out. And apparently career guidance is another benefit of drinking cocoa. And it's fun. So here's our video from yesterday in which we failed to include the recipe, so we put it in the description. We won't leave links, but if you want to check it out, head to youtube.com/smAsho. And I don't know what is going on. Oh, that's our economics video from Sunday, actually. We've been doing stuff like calling out stock market crashes months and years before they happen. So Anyway, here's yesterday's video. This one does include our morning cacao ceremony, which is 1 teaspoon cocoa powder, 1 espresso, which is just a few ounces of strong coffee, a little bit of sea salt, a little bit of lemon juice, some coconut oil that we add to the French press before adding the hot water, cayenne pepper to taste, and we also take half a multivitamin at that same time, as some vitamins and minerals are fat soluble. And that's the reason, part of the reason why we put the coconut oil in the cacao beverage. So there you go. There's a body hack for you. Increase your cellular oxygen content by consuming cocoa. It's super good for you. It's super cheap. Add it to your coffee. It increases the health benefits of your coffee. I would like to take one moment to talk about Middle Eastern politics. Now, there's a problem when we get involved in Middle Eastern politics, in that there is a religious war going on in the Muslim world, which has been going on for thousands of years. And that is the Shia versus Sunni conflict. Many Americans believe that we should let them figure this out on their own, not get involved, as folks are killing each other constantly for over 1,000 years based on who should be the heir to Muhammad's religious throne. Who should be the inheritor of Muhammad's empire? Sunnis believe one thing, Shiite believes something else, and that is what it is all about. The U.S. should not be involved in this except for from a functional perspective, and really both sides. I mean, keep in mind, folks, most terrorism that you're familiar with, such as ISIS, the stuff going on in Iraq and Syria, is all because of Sunni terrorists. The Saudi government is Sunni, the Iranian government is Shiite, and that is the source of the main tension in the Middle East. I like this article. AOC and Bernie Sanders hate this tax incentive, which means it's probably really good. Anyway, check out zerohedge.com for some cutting edge stuff. They're almost as fast as our channel is at coming out with relevant information. Let's go back to the sun and look at another image here, the colored magnetogram, before we close this thing out. There you have the last 7 hours. We're going to zoom way in to look at the progression of sunspot 2741 as it continues to degrade. It's now split in two. One of those fields is probably going to evaporate throughout the day today. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, folks. We are out of here. Remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun anyway. Use the proper instruments such as the SDO, and don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, subscribe to our channel, share in your social media, help us to get to 1,400 subscribers. Google's not helping us. Facebook's not helping us. So it's your job, our viewers, as we can only do what we can do, folks. So anyway, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your arteries.